lipids today. Lipids are one of the 4 biomolecules. We have carbohydrates, we have lipids, we have proteins, and nucleic acid. So let's start right now. So what are lipids? Lipids are biomolecules which do not mix with water. Example is if you have oil and you put it in water, the oil will never mix with water. And lipids are made up of 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Remember, carbohydrates are also made up of 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But the oxygen in lipids are a few. There are 4 types of lipids. Number 1 is triglycerides, number 2 phospholipids, and number 3 steroids. Lastly, we have waxes. Let's talk about the functions of lipids, because lipids have very important functions inside the living organism. The first one is that lipids store energy. So if you can see here, the lipids and fats can store more energy than carbohydrates. Number 2 is insulation, and that is lipids can protect us from heat loss. Under our skin, we have a layer of fat which will help to protect the heat from leaving our body, especially in the cold weather. Number 3 is that lipids make hormones. Example is testosterone found in boys and estrogen found in girls. The 4th function is that lipids can make the living organisms like fish float in water, because lipids are less dense. That means they are very light, so it helps the animals in the ocean to float. Lastly, they also protect. If you look at this cactus plant, it lives in a very hot environment on the desert. On the surface of the leaves, we have waxes, which will protect the plant from losing too much heat. And inside our bodies, we also have lipids around our organs, which help to protect our organs. Now let's take a look at the type of lipid. We look at only the first 3. The first one is triglycerides. There are 2 types, fat and oil. The fat is the solid found in meat, and the oil is the liquid, like you can see here. If you can zoom into the molecule, you're going to see that triglyceride has 2 parts. It has a glycerol joined together with 3 fatty acids. This is a triglyceride molecule. Tri means 3 fatty acids. So how do the fatty acids join together with glycerol? Okay, so here we can see the H from the glycerol will join together with the OH from a fatty acid, and this reaction will produce water, and now the fatty acid will join together with the glycerol. The name of this reaction is called dehydration. If you look on the right, you can see a triglyceride molecule with the 3 fatty acids. And if you look at the first 2 fatty acids, the top one, the middle one, and compare to the third one, you can see a big difference. Number 1 is the first and the second one have only single bonds between the carbons, and they are also straight. The third one has a double bond and not straight. These are the 2 types of fatty acids. The one which has single bonds and straight, around the carbons they are full with hydrogen. Okay, they are full with hydrogen, and in science we call full with hydrogen as saturated. The first one has single bonds between the carbons and they are straight. If you look at the carbon atoms, you can see that they are full with hydrogen, and in biology we say it is saturated or yin toa in Thai. Now the third fatty acid is not straight, it has double bonds, and if you look around the carbons of the double bond, it is missing some hydrogen atoms. It is not full with hydrogen, and we call that unsaturated fatty acid. And unsaturated in Thai is yin toa. Now, because the saturated are straight, they are very easy to pack, and so they usually form solids at room temperature. And because the unsaturated are not straight, they are very hard to pack, so they are usually liquid at room temperature. Now, the unsaturated sometimes have only one double bond, and we call that monounsaturated. Mono means one. And sometimes they have more than one double bond, and we call that polyunsaturated. Poly means many. Let's talk about the second type of lipid, phospholipid. Now, from the name, it has phospho and lipid. Phosphate joined together with lipid. And this is the structure of phospholipid. It has glycerol joined together with two fatty acids, and the glycerol is joined with a phosphate molecule. Phospholipids are super important in the cell membrane. They form the cell membrane. If you look at the structure of phospholipid, it looks like there is a head and a tail. And if you put phospholipid in water, you're going to see something amazing. And that is all the head of the phospholipid is going to move to the water, and all the tails will move away from the water. Now this is because the head is polar. It means it can easily bond with water. But the tail is non-polar. It means it does not easily bond with water. And we call the head as hydrophilic. It means it loves water. Hydro means water, philic means love. And the tail is hydrophobic. Hydro again means water. Phobic means fear or afraid. So the tail is afraid of water. The last lipid is steroids. And steroids have a very unique structure compared to the first two. If you look at the structure of steroids, it has 4 carbon rings joined together, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here are examples: estrogen, cholesterol, testosterone. You can see they all have the 4 carbon rings. The difference between them are the number of atoms attached to the carbon rings. Now, cholesterol is a very important steroid in our bodies. Inside the cell membrane, cholesterol helps to hold the phospholipids together so that they do not break apart. But too much of cholesterol can also block the arteries inside our bodies. And can lead to heart problems. So in summary, we've talked about what lipids are, talked about their functions. We've also looked at the 4 types, but talked about the 3 types, their structures and their properties. And lastly, we looked at 2 types of fatty acids, saturated and unsaturated. Thank you very much. I hope this is helpful.